Thanks so much for coming this evening here to Recirculation. This bookshop, it's called Recirculation. It's a project of Word Up Community Bookshop, which is another space that's about 10-15 minutes away from here. And the two together are bookshops and community spaces. They are volunteer-powered, nonprofit, and collectively run. Our main space, a few blocks over, is about 14 years old. So we've been doing this for a long time, trying to work as collectively as possible and keep these spaces open to have books and authors available in the neighborhood. And to do, and we welcome all kinds of other events too. We've had gallery shows and concerts and workshops and story times for kids. And if you are in the New York City area on a regular basis, we welcome you to propose, doing your own event or to come and attend others. We have event calendars at the front. We also, as I said, we're volunteer powered. So if you'd ever like to come in and help us out, we could always use all kinds of help. And you can come talk to us, myself, Emmanuel, or Josephine at the counter. We're very excited to be hosting today this event. So thank you to everyone who's worked on setting it up, and to welcome Taylor Cassidy, who's the creator of the online series Fast Black History, where she teaches Black history to her audience of millions. She's been featured on TikTok's 2020 Top 100 list under Voices of Change, Most Impactful, Teen Vogue's 21 Under 21, and Forbes' 30 Under 30 lists. Big stuff. And then in conversation, after a brief reading of the new book out today, congratulations, Ivana will be in conversation. Ivana is the creator, host, and producer of the talk show How She Did It, where she interviews women industry leaders and is the founder of the media company Second Gen Afro. Thanks very much for being here.
Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Woo! This is such an exciting day. Congratulations, Taylor, release day. This is a really big day. I really do want to congratulate you on the release of your book, Black History is Your History. I think that this was such a creative celebration of Black history, just as you intended it to be, right? And I'm just really proud of you as a friend, and I'm excited for the rest of the world to read it and experience it. So let's just jump right in. What does the phrase Black history is your history mean to you now that you've written this book?
So Black history is your history was the catchphrase that I would say on the end of all of my Fast Black History videos with TikTok. I would end every video with, and remember, Black history is your history. And I would always say that because whenever I was first creating the series, I wanted to find a way to remind people that while they're learning this new information, it is a part of their story. Like, there's a reason you're learning it. There's a reason it's important in your life. Like, I wanted them to realize this is something that is going to benefit you, and that's why you should keep learning it. So I feel like I carry that sentiment into this book, right, because I want anyone, regardless of your identity or like where you come from, learning Black history, I want them to realize that in learning it, it's not just the story that they're taking away, the information that they're taking away, but it's the ability to see yourself in these Black history figures and know that you can do the same excellent things that they did, no matter where you come from. It's your history too.
Yeah, I love that. That's so powerful. In the book, you said that if nobody had ever watched the first episode of your Fast Black History series, you would have still been proud of yourself that you made the book or the series. How do you feel, or do you feel the same way with the release of this book?
Oh, you see, he gave me another one, period. I absolutely do. I do. I'm incredibly proud of this book because I've always wanted to write a children's book. I have a bucket list from middle school where I wrote down write a children's book. Oh, wow. And so with this, it makes me feel so excited because it's not just about how many people buy the book. It's not about how popular the book gets for me. It's just the fact that I was able to take this mission and put it into something, for one, a lot more permanent than the internet. And two, I can put it into a format that I already love so much and something that means so much to me, which is books. You know, falling in love with literature, falling in love with books is something that my mom taught me, my Nana taught me. So to have it in book format just makes me so content.
Yeah. So all of the chapters have these Tay story moments that I thought were so great, where you kind of weave your own life into these different historical narratives. Why was it important for you to tell the book in this way?
Because I wanted to make these stories relatable. I feel like I could have written a book where it was only talking about the Black history figure, and I could have added in all of the jokes, you know, all of the humor and modern references and all of that. But I kept thinking about it, and I was like, something that I really desired and something that I always looked for whenever I would pick out books when I was a middle schooler is somebody that I could relate to. Like if I picked up a book and read the back and felt like I couldn't relate with the main character, I would put the book back down. So if I could have an aspect of the book where there's a, I guess, character, that being me, where the person could relate to more, where it is more in the present, it's telling modern stories or in modern challenges that the person is actually going through today, they'll connect more to the education being taught. And I would have, like, this, if somebody else wrote this kind of book when I was little, I would have gobbled it up, because you're always looking for somebody to look up to when you're little, or somebody who will understand the things that you're going through when you're younger. So I wanted to be a guide through the history.
Yeah, and you definitely like took representation to a new level with that, and I love that. In one of the chapters, you talk about Ida B. Wells and how she cried at one of her speeches that she was giving, but you reframe this moment into a moment of strength, even though that's not exactly how she felt in that moment. So this concept of you reframing emotions and reframing these experiences that these like different trailblazers had, how has that shaped your storytelling style?
Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, the only reason that I really started doing that was because of Fast Black History. Because after your 25th video telling people just facts in 1 minute, you have to find a way to look at another side of things. So I started trying to ask myself, okay, what would happen if I was there? What would happen if I was the one doing that act in 1965 or whatever? Like, what would I emotionally be going through? And that started making me dive deeper into what these Black history figures were going through emotionally. And I feel like doing so helped my storytelling to be a lot more nuanced and bring up conversations that people don't really talk about whenever they're talking about history in general. Especially with Ida B. Wells, that chapter was supposed to be something completely different. And when I found that story, I changed the whole point of the chapter to the importance of being vulnerable.
Right.
Because I talk about in the book, Ida B. Wells is very much taught to be this very like persistent, hardworking woman who never stopped, and she fought for what she wanted, and she spoke up against injustice and all these things. And while all those things are completely true, I wanted to use that story that she shared of breaking down, talking about her friend who was lynched in front of a crowd of people. I wanted to use that to talk about a trope that we see today of the strong Black woman, and how that affects people's ability to see Black women as being able to be soft and being able to be vulnerable and share hard emotions and things that they go through, and how that affects how we get treated at the doctor, you know? So I wanted to make them relatable through their emotions, but also show people how when we don't look at that side of things, it affects every single one of us in systems that we go through today.
Right, right. In the Cicely Tyson chapter, which was my personal favorite, you spoke about how films have kind of influenced the way in which you understand history, right? So can you talk a little bit about how movies and also fashion have contributed to your view on history?
It's everything. I remember growing up, my mom bought these. Okay, I'm gonna shut out my mom a little bit. She bought these books. She bought like 15 Black history books years before we were born, with the purpose of teaching Black history to us through them. And they were very colorful books on the outside. They were pretty thin, so I was like, okay, this is a quick read. This is for me, you know? But when you open the book up, it's small text from top to bottom. Most of those words a 10-year-old is not going to understand. And like sitting there having somebody read it to you, it's kind of like you're going to fall asleep. You're not really going to follow what's going on. Mm-hmm. But when she would put on the Ruby Bridges story movie, mm-hmm. or when we would watch Roots every weekend, that history comes to life, and it actually puts something in front of you that you can look at and relate to your own life and actually see it happening. Mm-hmm. So for me, just seeing that artistry of Alex Haley and even like the people who made the Ruby Bridges movie, be able to take that history and put it into such a vivid memory. I wanted to do the same thing with this book and make it, I like to say you feel like you're watching a TikTok video, right, reading the book.
I love that. And I love the fact that your mom is here right now and your grandpa. I think that's so sweet and wonderful, especially because you reference them a lot in the book as the reason for who you are today. So do you think that if you didn't have those influences in your life, that you would have such a strong interest in Black history today?
What do you guys think? I would not have an interest in Black history. No, I would not. No, I wouldn't. Wow. Because it's a thing that's passed down. It's a generational thing, that love and that importance for your identity. I mean, you walk into my mom's house, there's Black art all over the walls, Black history books all over. It's like you're walking into a museum a little bit. And I grew up with that. So I was literally surrounded by a love of culture and a love of your identity. So without them, I would not even be able to recognize the importance of not just knowing that history about myself, but falling in love with it. You know, they're the ones who taught me how to fall in love with that history and the reason you should love it and protect it.
Yeah, I love that. Something that you did in the book that I thought was so great and creative and honestly hilarious was that you created a playlist for Zora Neale Hurston. I loved that. I thought that was just so funny. And it makes me think about creativity and like innovation. So how do you manage to stay so creative, especially during a time where AI and algorithms kind of make it harder for creatives, authors, and people in general to like tap into their own originality?
That's a great question. I'm just naturally a very curious person, and my mom can tell you I lose my phone a lot. So I quite enjoy not being on my phone.
I love that.
So I think both of those things in tandem together make me ask a lot of questions all the time. Like I have so many notes apps where I'm just writing down random questions, and I like to deep dive into things. I like to read. I like to research and get to the bottom of things. Mm-hmm. And I think that creativity and curiosity comes from letting yourself live life and letting yourself take risks and do things that you usually wouldn't. And a lot of that happens off the screen and away from AI. You know, sometimes it is hard work to really be creative and actually see that creative concept through. But I enjoy it because I enjoy coming to the end of it and realizing that the thing that I was so curious about has now turned into a skill of mine that I can bring into the next thing. Mm-hmm. So, you know, times are tough right now. Times are tough these days. Yeah. But for me, that act of continuing to educate myself and continue to create something out of that education is a form of resistance in that, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Times are tough right now. And I think that because times are so tough, I think that instills a lot of fear in people. I think that that's a huge thing right now is like people are scared about the future of this country, of this world. And I think that's also fear. I think that's a theme that you talk about in the book as well. Was there any fear associated with releasing this book, with writing a book? I mean, you are a creative person, you create things all the time, but this is a new, medium for you. So what was that like?
I mean, there's definitely fear because, this is my debut book. This is my first ever time doing this. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I think one of my biggest fears was this book getting banned. I don't know what that holds, but I just know that as long as I'm telling the truth the way that I know how to tell the truth, in a way where it's accomplishing my mission, that's all I can do, you know? I hope to continue doing this, but honestly, that's my biggest fear. Everything else, I'm just proud of myself for bringing this to fruition, and excited for young adults and adults alike to get their hands on this and find a new perspective to see this interest that has fueled me for so long.
Yeah. Something that you pointed out to me is that today, the day of the release of your book, is also George Floyd's birthday. And I think that this is really a moment for us to really reflect on how important it is to re-examine history, right? And to re-examine even recent history. So how does it feel to drop your book on a day like this, and also during a time where, many people are trying to erase or undervalue the significance of Black history?
Well, first of all, I did not realize that this was his birthday until maybe a month ago. Mm-hmm. But when I learned that, I had to sit and take a minute and think about, like you said, what it means for me to be releasing a book like this. And I think it makes me take a step back and realize that, yes, while this book is really fun and really joyous, and it's meant to put a light perspective on Black history, it's important to recognize that when you don't learn this history, when you don't learn this education and the skill of looking back at the past and understanding how to relate it to the present, those cycles happen over and over again. Violence ensues, darkness ensues, and it just makes me even more motivated to find ways to make history accessible to people, especially the younger generation who's coming into this reality.
Yeah, and you've already done so much in that space, and I think we're all very proud of you. Those are all the questions I have for you today. Thank you. Congratulations on this book, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for coming. I think I'm going to do a reading of this book. I'm going to read you the beginning of the chapter on Cicely Tyson. If I can find it, let's see. 109. Open your books to page 109. Wow. I feel like a teacher. So before I read, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. It makes me so incredibly happy to see you all here. It's not very often that I get to see everybody from all my worlds come together. So I'm so grateful for you guys' support, and it just means a lot to me. So thank you. So this is Cicely Tyson and Why Good Representation Changes Lives. And you'll see there's a picture of Cicely Tyson all dressed up because she was a fashion icon. Who's your favorite movie character? What about them makes them your favorite? It doesn't have to be deep. You can like them simply because their outfits are cool or because they can swing from the tops of skyscrapers. Spider-Man, if you're reading this, I love you. Think about that character. And I bet that deep down, a part of you loves them because in some way, you either feel just like them or you want to be like them. Oh, and I bet you've even tried once or twice to copy their fashion or dance moves, or you've memorized their catchphrase. Don't worry, I do the same thing. The shows and movies we watch affect our likes and dislikes, ways of seeing the world, and most importantly, ways of seeing ourselves. I'll give you an example. When I was in middle school, the live-action Beauty and the Beast movie came out, and I went to see it with my friends. I thought it was pretty good, but one of my friends, who happened to resemble the main character, was bawling with emotion. There I was in the movie theater, waiting for her to pull herself together over watching a princess spin around in a floofy yellow dress. I remember thinking to myself, I liked when the teacups and candlesticks sang "Be Our Guest" as much as the next person, but it wasn't that good. If it was, I'd be crying too. I was so confused as to how there could be this much fuss over one character. It was just a movie. It wasn't until years later, when I watched an animated short film called Canvas, that my opinion changed. Canvas was about an old man remembering his peak years and his late wife. By the end of it, I was in shambles. Here I was crying the same way my friend had over a film less than 10 minutes long. The difference? The film connected with my heart from the very beginning because the old man and his family were Black, not just in skin color, but in culture. I found myself pointing out things around the house he lived in, saying, "My grandparents had that too." I looked at the detailed way the old man's hands were animated and saw my own granddad's hands. When I looked into the face of the granddaughter, it was like a mirror. For the first time, I knew what it meant to find a deep, positive connection with a character I related to, and to truly feel seen in a movie. That, ladies and gentle people, is called representation. Nowadays, there are all kinds of characters and stories that reflect the diversity in our world. However, it wasn't always this way. In the United States, in the 1800s, minstrelsy was a popular form of entertainment. This was when performers would cover their faces and bodies with black shoe polish, then sing, dance, and act like a stereotyped version of a Black person. People would perform songs like Jump Jim Crow, which made Black people the butt of jokes about laziness, uncleanliness, and other negative traits. Most of the time, Black people were characterized as subhuman or not as human as people who were white. Ain't that crazy? Even when minstrel shows started to fall out of trend in the early 1900s, humor that was based on making fun of people of color continued to be a standard in entertainment. Yuck. But Taylor, I've seen Black people in old movies. Wasn't that representation too? That's right. Black people were cast in movies starting in the early 1900s. However, even though having Black people on screen in mainstream film was a huge advancement, they were usually only given subservient roles like the main character's maid, slave, or servant. That, or they were just extras in the background. Now, don't get me wrong. There were many Black filmmakers like a man named Oscar Micheaux and another named Noble Johnson, who made movies depicting Black people in more positive ways. But their movies weren't supported in the same mainstream way as majority white productions. Go back to your favorite movie character. How would you feel if someone said you reminded them of that person? I'd feel pretty good. But I wouldn't feel all that great if instead someone said I reminded them of a character from the movie that was looked down on or not even remembered. That's what it's like to be Black and only see images of people like you on screen that are inaccurate or written by someone who doesn't understand your life experience. Okay, Taylor, great. Now I'm sad. Then let's talk about how all of this began to change. How did we get from watching people making fools of themselves in blackface to screaming, "That's my best friend," in the movie theater as Lupita Nyong'o and Zendaya gracefully blessed the Marvel Cinematic Universe with their presence? Wait, y'all didn't scream that, just me? Okay, just checking. One of the first actresses to break these barriers and challenge the played-out narratives of Black people on screen was Cicely Tyson. Cicely was, with no exaggeration, a legendary actress. She knew what she wanted to achieve and wasn't afraid to put her all into making it happen. On December 19th, 2024, Cicely was born in New York to parents who came to the United States from Nevis, an island in the Caribbean. She was raised in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance. And I'm going to stop right there. If you want to learn more about Cicely Tyson, read the rest of the chapter. Thank you so much.